O'Donnell at the White House. Thank you, Kel, for that. Joining me now is Virginia Representative Jerry Connoly, a Democratic member of both the Oversight and Reform and the House Foreign Affairs Committees. So, Congressman, with a welcome to you, sir. What does this second whistleblower mean for the impeachment inquiry overall? And do your committees now want to hear from this person, too?
Yes. Obviously, we will want to hear from that person. I think if you look at what's happened since the House Democratic Caucus agreed to proceed with an impeachment inquiry, every day we have received corroboration of the allegation that is now more than that, and evidence to support the fact that the president extorted a foreign leader for partisan domestic political purposes. And he used military aid and the visit of that newly elected Ukrainian president as a cudgel to extort cooperation in a domestic political operation. And that's wrong, and it's against the law.
You heard Republican Senator Ron Johnson there in exchange with my colleague Chuck Todd. He was propagating a conspiracy theory about the 2016 election, saying that it has everything to do with Ukraine because it underlines exactly why the president is upset. What's your reaction to that whole exchange, and is there any evidence to support it?
No. That's been a debunked right-wing conspiracy theory long ago. And I think Chuck Todd handled that correctly by calling out Senator Johnson in spewing that kind of misinformation. The Republicans who are rallying around Donald Trump are practicing classic gaslighting. Don't believe what's in front of your eyes, believe what I tell you. And secondly, distraction. Let's talk about something else. What we need to talk about, and what the impeachment inquiry is looking at, is did the president, beyond any kind of doubt, extort a foreign leader for domestic political purposes? And the answer is quite clearly already yes. We have the transcript the White House itself issued. We have the complaint by the whistleblower, and we have the text messages from a number of State Department officials that clearly make it obvious that the intent here was a quid pro quo. It was an exchange.
Kurt Volker, in particular, after the Thursday hearing with you, what was your reaction when you were reading those texts?
Somewhat shocked that they went as far as they did to, frankly, use leverage and pressure on the newly elected Ukrainian president and his team to cooperate on this sordid political purpose, and they were willing to jeopardize Ukraine's sovereignty and security by withholding military aid to do it. That is repugnant. And it is something that ought to trouble every American. And the president doubled down on it by inviting China to do the same.
And when those texts took a turn and said, you know what, we should probably not continue texting on this conversation, what did that say to you?
That they became very aware of the fact that if what they were doing ever saw daylight, they would be in trouble, and it clearly would be something that could jeopardize the president's status himself. And they were right to be concerned.
So let's take a listen to what Republican House Intel Committee member Chris Stewart said a bit earlier about those texts. Here it is.
This is a great example of the dishonesty of how this investigation is being run. They take little snippets of emails and texts. They leak those without releasing the transcript. If you release the transcript of this entire hearing, it's very clear that Mr. Volker and others have said there was no quid pro quo. There was no linkage between this.
Curious your reaction to Congressman Stewart there and the fact that he's suggesting editing of the release of information.
That's a false charge. I was at a part of that deposition with Mr. Volker, and the text messages that have been printed or made available to the public are quite accurate and do reflect what I certainly heard in the deposition. So nice try, but it's just not true, and it's part of the spin and attempt at disinformation and distraction by Republican enablers to try to get the attention off the main topic, which is the president extorted a foreign leader to get political dirt on a prospective political opponent. That is not all right. It is an abuse of office, and as I said, it's also illegal.
Okay. Looking ahead this week, you have the depositions, which include U.S. Ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, former Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. What will you ask them? What do you want to hear from them?
Well, the questioning is going to be done by counsel, not by members.
Okay.
But what I certainly hope to hear is how he can explain his behavior in pressing the new Ukrainian president to do something of such a sordid nature, and how he could find himself as the United States ambassador to the European Union involved in extortion of a European leader, newly elected, not a lot of experience, in fact, no experience, and holding in abeyance military aid necessary for Ukraine to defend itself against Russian kinetic activity going on the eastern part of their country. Russian troops and Russian paramilitary, as we speak, are fighting in the eastern part of that country. They've lost lives. They need that military aid. To hold that in abeyance, as well as the prospect of a meeting with the President of the United States here in Washington, is just something unprecedented. And how can a diplomat find himself to be party of that? And it's not like he wasn't warned. Our charge in Ukraine warned him that this was not something that we ought to be associated with, and that it was crazy to be compromising the sovereignty of the Ukraine over the attempt to find dirt on a political opponent.
Virginia Democrat Congressman Gerry Connolly, it's always good to speak with you, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you. Joining me now, Shannon Petty-Peace, Senior